He closed his eyes, but sleep never came. Not for one night, not for 1 year, not ever. Some people dream of the future. He was forced to live in it every single night. This isn't just a story about a boy who couldn't sleep. It's a story about a curse disguised as a gift, and the terrifying price of seeing what's to come. What if you knew every secret the darkness held? Would you be a savior, or would you be its prisoner? Subscribe now, because some dreams never arrive, but nightmares are always waiting. He was only 10 years old when it started. A quiet boy with a bright smile, who one night simply stopped sleeping. His parents, worried sick, took him from one doctor to another. They thought it was stress from school, maybe a childhood phase. The official diagnosis was chronic insomnia. But this wasn't an illness that could be fixed with warm milk or a bedtime story. This was something else entirely. While the rest of the world dreamed, he didn't just lie there, staring at the ceiling. He lived. He lived in the silent hours that no one else could see, in a world that existed between one day and the next. His nights were longer than anyone else's days. While his family slept, he inherited a kingdom of shadows and silence, a realm where time itself seemed to bend. The clock would tick, but for him, each minute stretched into an eternity. He was alone, but not for long. The world of the sleepless had its own inhabitants, and they were about to introduce themselves. At first, the endless nights were a playground for his curiosity. He devoured every book in the house, his mind racing through adventures and histories while the city outside was still. He mapped the constellations from his window, learning the names of distant stars like they were old friends. He taught himself to draw, filling sketchbooks with the eerie, beautiful shapes of moonlit trees and empty streets. For a while, it felt like a secret power. But soon, the silence began to break. It started as a faint hum, a vibration in the air that only he could feel. Then came the whispers. Faint at first, like the rustling of leaves, they grew clearer with each passing night. Voices that only spoke when the world was asleep. They weren't ghosts, not in the traditional sense. They were echoes of thoughts, fragments of forgotten conversations, secrets buried deep in the hearts of the sleeping people around him. The whispers told him things he should never have known. He learned of his neighbor's secret debt, his teacher's hidden sadness, his own father's unspoken fears. The darkness was no longer just empty. It was filled with the truths that daylight tried so hard to hide. And he, the sleepless boy, was its sole audience. As the weeks turned into months and months into years, the boy began to change. The lack of sleep etched dark, permanent circles under his eyes, making him look older than his years. His body grew frail, a stark contrast to the boundless energy of other kids his age. He was always tired, yet never able to rest. But while his body weakened, his mind became something extraordinary. It grew sharper, more perceptive, as if the sleepless hours were honing it into a fine blade. The whispers had started to evolve. They weren't just revealing secrets of the past anymore. They were showing him glimpses of the future. It began with small things. He'd feel a sudden chill and know a storm was coming. Hours before the sky showed any sign of clouds. He'd smell smoke on the wind and warn his family of a fire down the street long before the sirens began to wail. He'd see a flicker of darkness around a person and know they were in danger. And every single time he was right. His predictions were never wrong. He saw a car accident at an intersection and managed to pull a friend back from the curb just in time. He foresaw a classmate's sudden illness, urging them to see a doctor who caught a serious condition early. He was becoming a quiet, unknowing prophet, his warnings whispered with a fatigue that no one could understand. But with every vision that came true, a cold knot of dread tightened in his stomach. Seeing the future was one thing. The real question was, could he ever change it? His parents noticed the changes, of course. His strange, accurate warnings, his withdrawn nature, the haunted look in his eyes. They tried to understand, but how could they? How do you explain that you can hear the future in the dead of night? The fear that had been his constant companion was starting to leak into his waking life. People at school started calling him strange. They were wary of his quiet stare, as if he could see right through them, which, in a way, he could. One evening, his mother sat on the edge of his bed, her face a mixture of love and deep concern. The house was quiet, the sun had set, and another long night was stretching out before him. She took his hand, her touch warm against his perpetually cold skin. "What do you see?" she asked softly, her voice barely a whisper. "When you close your eyes, what's there?" He looked at her, his eyes reflecting the dim light of the bedside lamp. He wanted to lie, to tell her he saw nothing, to give her the peace of mind she so desperately wanted. But the truth was a heavy stone in his throat. He leaned in and whispered back, his voice hoarse, "Not dreams, only what's coming." He paused, and a single tear traced a path down his cheek. "And tonight I saw you." Not waking up. A profound, chilling silence filled the room, broken only by the sound of his own ragged breathing. The next morning, the sun streamed through the window, just as it always did. But the house was unnaturally still. The familiar sounds of his mother making breakfast were absent. He walked out of his room, a terrible, heavy certainty settling in his heart. He found her in her bed, lying still, a peaceful expression on her face, as if she had simply drifted off into a dream from which she would never return. He stood in the doorway, looking at the scene he had already witnessed countless times in the whispering darkness of the night. He had seen it. He had known it was coming, but he couldn't stop it. The vision had been absolute, a fixed point in time that he was powerless to change. In that moment, he understood the true nature of his curse. He wasn't a prophet meant to save people. He was just a spectator, an eternal witness to fate's cruel and unchangeable design. He was doomed to see the tragedy before it struck, to feel the pain before it happened, and to live with the knowledge that he could do nothing but watch. The boy never slept again, not for a single moment. And maybe, in the end, that's why he saw everything. He became a silent observer of life and death, his existence a lonely vigil in the endless night. His curse was his identity, his burden the only thing that was truly his. He lived on, forever caught between the world of the living and the echoes of what was yet to come. But his story is not the only one whispered in the shadows. There are other children, other gifts, other curses. Thank you for watching. The darkness holds more than just one secret. Subscribe now and return tomorrow for the story of the girl who spoke to shadows. You won't want to miss it.